Welcome back to the Millcreek Government Channel. I'm Jessica Stutzman. Today we find ourselves out of the studio and lucky enough to be here on location at the historic Presque Lighthouse. Built in 1872, the Presque Lighthouse paints quite a unique scene on the peninsula at Presque State Park. Recent restorations made to the brick lighthouse will preserve this iconic landmark for generations to come. Our Lighthouse Tour guides joining the show today will be Executive Director Michael Sullivan, Jackie Tamara, who is the Secretary of the Board of Directors and Volunteer Coordinator, and last but not least, President of the Board of Directors, Joe Maloney. Follow me inside as we take a tour. Standing with me here today in front of the iconic, beautiful scene of Presque State Park in Lake Erie is Board President Joe Maloney. Joe, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for coming.
So I understand, and we're so excited that the public is now able to come to the lighthouse. How exciting was that for you?
It's been a lot of years trying to get this done. A lot of people put some effort in to get this going, and we finally got it done about 4 years ago. So now it's open 7 days a week.
Open 7 days a week to the public. And what are your main goals for the next 3 to 5 years? Because you've done a lot of renovations already.
Yeah, we've done a lot of the renovations outside. We are going to start looking to work on the inside, doing the restoration back to the 1920 period. And that'll take a big bit of money that we'll have to raise.
And so, and everything, and we've talked about this, everything needs to be renovated and restored back to its original building date, which is?
Well, it was built in 1871 and occupied in 1873. So at that point, we're looking for the 1920s back in that period where what was going on, where there was a lightkeeper out here and the family lived out here.
And what are the estimated costs for those renovations? What projects do you see coming down the tubes?
Well, we anticipate the first round will be about $1.5 million to $2 million.
And what sort of projects? I see a fence here already, a new railing. What other projects do you see happening?
Well, we're going to put in a visitor center or visitor center over there this end of this year. And so that'll be the next project that we do. And then we'll start the restoration of the inside.
And how do you plan to raise those funds? Have there been a lot of generous donors?
Well, we've had some. We're looking to start a capital campaign probably sometime in 2018, 2019.
And people should check back for your website for more information.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And can interested individuals also apply to be on the board of directors? Do you need additional assistance?
Sure. We need volunteers all the time. We need people on the board, people that have specific interest in the lighthouse that could help us.
And what sort of qualities or traits would somebody looking to be on the board or just a volunteer, what would they have?
Well, at this point, we're looking for somebody that can work with social media, somebody an attorney, and maybe somebody that has some accounting background.
And who would they contact if they're interested in volunteering?
Well, they can contact the website, and there's an area out there that they can apply for it, or they can call down here at the lighthouse.
Well, Joe, I'm really excited to get a tour of the lighthouse, and I know that's happening next. And viewers, I can't wait for you to see both the outside, inside, and top of the lighthouse. We are standing next to the flagpole and in front of the oil shed, and I have Executive Director Michael Sullivan with me here today, taking the time out of your busy renovation schedule to chat with us. So, Michael, as a part of the Executive Director, what are your duties here?
Well, I was hired a year ago as Executive Director here at the Presque Lighthouse, Presque Light Station, and it was really to coordinate the opening of the lighthouse. Last year was 5 days a week. This year we've gone to 7 days a week, but it was to coordinate the opening of the lighthouse to an extended schedule and to get all these renovations underway that we've talked about as a board for the last 2 or 3 years, and to start the raising of the funds for the capital campaign, which we hope to have in 2019 to restore the house.
And so to move it from 5 days a week to 7 days a week, you must have seen a good visitor turnout in 2016. What was that?
We did. We had, last year was a huge turnout. We had budgeted about 10,000 people to the top of the tower. We thought that would be a good number, and I think we ended up at 13,400.
Wow.
So it was a huge number, and then over the course of the winter, we discussed about having the lighthouse open 7 days a week, which was our agreement we had with the state and with Matt Green here at the park. With over 4 million visitors a year, we can't be closed on a Tuesday or Wednesday. So we are staffed up to have it open 7 days a week.
7 days a week, and what are the hours?
The hours, the first tour is at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the last tour is at 4:40 or 20 to 5.
Okay.
Each tour takes about 20 minutes. It is $6 to go to the top of the tower, but you can walk the grounds and go through the house where we have a lovely gift shop for no charge whatsoever.
And is the lighthouse, is it open seasonally or just, all year round? How is that open?
Right now it's seasonally, so those hours, the extended hours, the 7 days a week, we start at Memorial Day and we'll go through Labor Day. And then probably certainly in September, maybe into October, would be open maybe Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for weekends and stuff.
Okay, and you mentioned people can get tours of the lighthouse all the way up to the top. How does one get tickets for this tour?
Well, you'd come out to the lighthouse, and we have our desk out front here behind us, and you'd buy your ticket there. And it goes up at certain times. It's 20-minute intervals, and we can take 10 people to the towers at one time. For the littler ones, we have to have a height of 44 inches, but they go up 10 at a time, and you'd buy your ticket here.
And we chatted a little bit in the last segment about your need for board members and for volunteers to keep this place running. How many volunteers do you need to keep this open every single day in the summer? 10
a day. It's a monumental task. We have 2 shifts actually, and our first shift, if you will, is from 10 to 1:30, and then the next shift is from 1:30 to 5. And each shift requires 5 people. We have 2 at the front table selling tickets. We have 1 in the oil room who's the docent and tells you about the history of the house, 1 in the gift shop, I think that's 4, and then 1 at the tower top for safety reasons and certainly talks additional history about the house. So it's 5 per shift, 10 per day, 70 per week.
And tell me those shifts again for the hours. What time did they stop and start?
10. So we start at 10, but the volunteers are here about quarter to 10 or 20 to 10, but 10 to 1:30 and then 1:30 to 5.
Okay, so it's not that long of a commitment.
No, the shift is 3.5 hours. But Mary Ambrose, who is on staff here, she coordinates all the volunteers and the hours, and we are still looking for volunteers. Probably the best way is you can call the Lighthouse directly. The landline out here, phone number is 833-3604, and ask for Mary if there's some interest in volunteering.
And if you have a passion, again, for Presque, Lake Erie, the Lighthouse, how would you go about gaining the knowledge you need to be a tour guide or to be here on site?
Well, all of our volunteers have gone through training. We have some wonderful guides that have been put together for the oil room, say, if you're a docent in the oil room, and then there's a guide for the top of the tower, or if you're selling tickets. So there's information we have put together over the last year or so that's constantly updated, and then we have training 2 or 3 times a year for the new volunteers.
Okay, and is there information on your website about this as well?
There is, yes. You can go to presquelighthouse.org, and there's additional information on our website.
And again, we've mentioned the renovations so many times here. There's some red or yellow caution tape around. What are the renovations that have taken place already? We see this beautiful fence behind us.
Well, the renovations, these are things we had talked about for the last 2 or 3 years and planned on. So in certain order, we had beautiful new sidewalks put in out here around the compound. We had a sprinkler system put in, or an irrigation system put in. We had lighting put all around the house and the flagpole behind me. Beautiful new flagpole behind us. Landscaping, and we put a fence around the property, which is the period correct fence from the 1920s. Next spring, after the fence weathers a little, it'll be stained white. So a lot of projects have gotten accomplished in the last 4 or 5 weeks.
And how did you know that this fence was right for the time period? Did you, were there historical notes or photos that you looked at?
Photos.
Photos.
Lightkeepers, the lightkeepers here or lightkeepers across the country, they really, I said they really had to do a couple things. One was to keep the light lit, the lamp lit, and the maintenance of the the light. But the second is they kept records of everything, the weather of the day, maybe visitors, special visitors that might come and stuff. And then, you know, this house was finished in 1873, and there was photography. I mean, we have some beautiful pictures from the 1890s of the grounds. This flagpole is put exactly where the flagpole was back at the turn of the century. And we have pictures of Mr. and Mrs. Shaw, who were the longest serving lightkeepers, leaning against this fence that we just put back up. So
that's incredible. And the last thing I want to talk about is the oil room behind us. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. That's the original oil room from 1872-73, and that's where they kept the surplus oil, the bulk oil and supplies. In the house itself, there's an oil room where they put the daily supplies for the evening or for night for safety reasons. But this oil shed over here, it's the original oil shed. It's in excellent shape, and so the lighthouse, the light station here, would be how do I want to say, serviced maybe twice a year from the mainland with supplies, oil, kerosene, if you will, at the time. So it was, the bulk of it was kept right here.
Wonderful. Okay, so we've just talked a little bit about the outside renovations that were done and a little bit of the history of this oil room. I want to take you folks inside now to see what changes are being done inside the gift shop, and I want to take you up to the top of the tower. We are inside now the beautiful historic lighthouse, and I am sitting with Jackie Tamara, who has been with the project since 2004. And Jackie, if you don't mind, we call you the boss, but what is your title?
I am secretary of the board, the Light Station Board, the newly formed board that started in 2014. And our job really is to restore this to the early 1900s, and that has been my goal since 2004. First to get it open to the public, and then to restore it to the way it looked back in the early 1900s.
You have such a passion for this. Where did the passion for lighthouses, or this particular lighthouse, come from?
Because it's in my home territory, and we have visited 250 lighthouses, and I said, why not do it with this lighthouse? But there were several roadblocks, and so those have been overcome, and so now it is the nonprofit organization who has to move forward. And as you saw on the grounds and everything, it is moving forward, and it's delightful to see it happen. It
is, and you're such a wealth of knowledge with all of the information about the lighthouse, where you are today with it, the past history. So why don't you tell me how many rooms are in this lighthouse, and it's about 144 years old.
It is. 1873 it was completed. Okay, so it's 144 years old. This wall directly behind me is the original outside wall. So the bricks that you see here are 144 years old. Now I can just turn right here and I can show you this brick. This brick came out of the sand right here in the corner. We had an archaeologist come in and he dug all around the building, but unfortunately he only found a lot of bricks. I was hoping he was going to find little buttons and little glasses and stuff like that, but didn't happen. So we have a lot of bricks that from the original room. This room was given the name as a lake room because it overlooks our beautiful lake. And so this will stay. This is a nice room to educate people. People come. Not everyone wants or can tour the tower. So people can come into the house, as Michael and Joe have said. They can come into the house and just visit us in the house. So we spend a lot of time in this room trying to educate people about the history.
And we have a lot of beautiful photos on the wall. You've got some great books, maps on this table here in front of us. What are some of the changes that you plan to see on the inside? Well,
this room, like I said, we spend a lot of time on education in here. And before we leave this room, I just want to point out that this book is Lightkeeper's Legacy. Okay, and she will be here this summer. She will be here the month of July, Loretta Brandon. And so I would encourage your viewers to come out and talk with her because she lived here. Unlike the rest of us who would like to live here, she lived here.
I would like to live here. I would like to point that
out. Well, she lived here, and then she's written this wonderful book, and it's for sale in our gift shop. But she will be here this summer, and so she is just enchanting. So I hope people will come out the month of July. So back to your original question. The room that's right adjoining this is the summer kitchen, and it was given that name because that's where they cooked in the summer. They were smart enough to know they didn't want to heat the rest of the house on a warm day like today, so they would cook in the summer kitchen. And in the summer kitchen, you would have had a hand pump, you would have had an ice box, and you would have had a wood stove, of which we're going to put all those back. So that'll be exciting. And keep in mind, there was no bathroom in the lighthouse until Loretta came. Actually, her father built her a bathroom. So 1957, all of the keepers and their children and everybody, the outhouse was right outside that window. So,
Was it?
Yes. And it was called the privy. And we get visitors in here and I'll say to them, now we're going to put the privy back. And people go, oh, yeah, what's a privy? So then we take time to explain that, because we have found the foundation for the privy and the barn that was in the corner. So those will go back, and that's part of the overall plan, is to put those back. So the summer kitchen, like I said, will have all those things from the early 1900s in it. And right now people come in and it's modern things, and so it'll be a whole different atmosphere when they come.
And so we mentioned that this is the lake room, there's the summer kitchen. What are some of the other rooms named?
Okay, there are nine rooms in the house, okay? So the next room would be the dining room. And the dining room was like the family room, the living room, the everything room, and that was where they cooked in the wintertime.
Okay,
so
they could heat the house.
So that exactly. So that was the winter kitchen. And so we will put that big stove back. They would have burned coal and wood there, and so that it would heat the internal part of the house and the upstairs bedrooms. There are 2 bedrooms upstairs and what's called a large room. They gave it the name of a drying room, and we have our own definition of why that was called the drying room. Like maybe they put people up there to dry that they pulled out of the lake or the nets or wherever, but it begs for a definition, and we just have the label. So there are 2 bedrooms up there. There is 1 small bedroom down here off of the gift shop. The gift shop now was the original parlor, and when we take a little tour in there, I want to show you the floor. The floor is the original floor, and the parlor would have been where the keeper brought all these visitors that we see today. He would have brought them into the parlor first, and then he would have talk to them. Because it was a federally funded lighthouse, he was responsible to let everybody come in. But keep in mind, there was no road, and the only way you could get here was to come down the sidewalk trail,
Okay.
mile and a half. So very limited visitation, because you would have to take a boat across the bay, walk a mile and a half to come into the lighthouse. So we do have the keeper's logs that go all the way back to 1873, and we read who came. And they do log in how many people were here and what they did every day. And that's interesting too. We have that to share with the public. One more room, I almost forgot. The most important room is the oil room, and it's the first door when you come in on the left. And that would have been where the keeper prepared the lamps to take up every single night. So the oil room simply labeled that because that's where the lamps were that he had to carry up every night. He worked 3rd shift, okay? So when the sun went down, he went up.
Okay.
And he had to keep going up and down because that little lamp, I don't know if you can get a picture of that, that little lamp is the only light that would have been up there.
Okay.
And we'll talk about how that happened.
Okay, and folks, just so you know, we're going to take a tour of the inside of the facility, everything she just talked about, but we're also walking around the other visitors that are here. This is actually open right now to the public, so we might bump into some other visitors, or you might hear them in the background. Jackie, I wanted to talk, what is this special piece right behind us?
This, Jessica, is a Fresnel lens, okay, designed by Augustin Fresnel, and they were placed in every lighthouse in the world just because of the uniqueness and of the way they could refract and reflect light. Now, that little tiny lamp, I don't know if they can get a picture of it, it's just a little tiny lamp that tall would have been put in the center of this Fresnel lens. And because of these are prisms, these prisms would have bent the light. And I thought I had, could I just lean over and get this picture? Because this picture here explains very succinctly how the light is bent.
Okay.
You see how it bends the light?
Yes, I do.
And so one lamp, not any bigger than the one that's up there, would have been set in the center with the light burning, and then it would have bent the light the prisms on here would have bent the light and sent the beam out 13 miles out into the lake. 13 and a half nautical miles, they tell me.
13 miles. And so this had to be pretty innovative technology for the time.
Exactly, exactly. And so it was used in every lighthouse because of that, you know. Now, this is a fourth order. They go from 1 to 6. The first order is in the ocean lighthouses. This is a fourth order. This would have been the size that would have been in this lighthouse. Ours had nice red panels though. So our lighthouse, the other thing I want to mention is that every light in every lighthouse has its own characteristic, which means it has 2 flashes, 3 flashes, 4 flashes. Like the one in Dunkirk is different than the one here. The one in Marblehead is different than the one that was here. So every light throughout the whole country has, so that when people are on the water, when they saw our too short, too long, or early on, they knew that it was the Presque and that the Presque was here and to be aware.
Okay.
So that's how it warned people.
Okay.
Our original was
So this is a safety feature.
exactly, and every lighthouse only had one purpose. They were only built for one purpose, and it was for this light to be on the very top to warn all the people. And when you think about it, early in late 1800s, early 1900s, that was how people traveled. You know, the lakes, the 5 lakes were the transportation routes,
Right.
for trade, for people, and so it was very, very important for them to know that the Presque arm was here, because that's what this warned them about. The light shining, they could look on their chart and say, ah, that's Presque.
Yes. Yes. And we do have a lot of shipwrecks off of Presque Isle.
We do.
So it's not like we're not known for that.
It is the shallowest lake, and apparently that's why, because the storms come up very quickly.
Right.
But our light here, that's in the tower, and you're going to be going up in the tower to show the visitors the light, it is still a working aid to navigation. So it still comes on every night. It's not a Fresnel lens.
Right.
They took all those out. This one came out of our lighthouse in 1962. But it's still a working aid to navigation, and so is the pier light. The North Pier is still a working aid to navigation.
Oh, okay.
So it still comes on every night too.
Okay.
And it has a certain flash to it. So it's not just standing there with its light on.
Right.
But the land lighthouse went dark. And the land lighthouse, for viewers who know where it is, it's across from East High School on Lighthouse Street.
Right.
So it was the first lighthouse on the Great Lakes. And we have a picture here, or we can include a picture so it'll jog people's memory. But it was the first lighthouse on the Great Lakes. But because of where it was located, high on the bluff, back almost in the bay area, it was okay for people going into the bay to the harbor, Lake Erie Harbor, but it was not good for the people out here on the lake because it didn't shine far enough. So they put it dark, and they commissioned this one to be built in 1872. The land lighthouse was built in 1818, so it lasted for quite a while. That's probably where all the shipwrecks came from, because they couldn't see it.
Right. So that we have this now, and
Right.
and like I said, this isn't just for aesthetic purposes. This is still here for safety.
It is. It is. And it is still a working aid to navigation. But we don't have this beautiful lens up there.
Right.
And we never will have a lens back up there because of the tightness of the tower. But we will have it displayed here for the visitors.
Okay. And Jackie, before we go on the tour, I want to talk about the visitors again. How much does it cost to take a tour of the lighthouse?
Just to climb the tower. We only charge to climb the tower. We don't charge visitors to come into the house, so it's $6 to climb the tower. And again, you know, it's our way of, that's the only source we have to raise funds, along with our gift shop. So people love to climb the tower. It's just a goal that they want to do. We just had a young couple that got engaged in the tower.
Oh, how wonderful!
Yeah.
Well, and how many times can you say that you've climbed, you know, the tower in
78 steps.
78 steps. So I'm going to have my workout cut out for me.
You won't have to go to the gym tonight.
Perfect. That's my kind of workout. And so the last thing I want to talk about before we start the tour is the Presque license plate you have on your lap.
Right. We don't want to forget this. Viewers can see this around the whole city, around the whole state actually, because all you have to have is a Pennsylvania registration for your car, and you can apply for these. And the lighthouse gets $15.50 for each plate that's sold.
Okay.
Which is nice. And so that's these have been, I think I recall, we're up to 1,120 now. So if anybody wants to support this, all they have to do, they can stop here and get the application. They can come into the house. They don't have to pay. They can come in and get an application here at the house, and then it's processed. It's processed. The Presque Partnership is in support. They're working together with us to get this. Go ahead.
And you had an original goal of how many?
I wanted 5,000, but that was in 2005.
I don't think we're far off at all.
No, but I wanted it by now.
Oh, you want it by now? Well, we're going to get there. We're going to make sure that our viewers want this license plate and they grab it, and we reach that goal of 5,000. And
Perfect.
And again, tell me how much it is to purchase the license plate.
$49.50, and we have to pay the Department of Transportation to process it for you, and also the inmates to cut it out for you, because it's still done in the Department of Corrections.
Oh, okay.
So we pay them to make it for you, and then it's sent directly to the person. So you fill out the application, either leave it here at the Lighthouse or take it to the Ridge Center, to the Presque Partnership, and they will process it with a check. And they will process it, and you'll get it within 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks.
And where will the money go with the profits that you see from the license plates? How will that go back into the house?
The house, the restoration of the house, you see all of the education things. I really am holding on to this money for education, and that's what I set out to do back when it was first designed, is to put that money. Now, what I really want to do is put a sign out there where the privy was and do a little picture, because it's going to be several years before we get the barn and the privy back up. So we need to put educational things outside to tell people, and you saw our new fence out there. That is the fence that was here in the early 1900s. That's what Andrew and Mary Shaw, he was the keeper that was here the longest. He was here 26 years. No road when he was here. And when the road came in, it came in on the lake side. Okay. So the road was on this side, and Loretta has pictures in her book that show how Mother Nature then took that road and just destroyed it. Within, it's about 18 to 20 years, the road was gone. It just all crumbled, from the hot and the cold and being too close to the lake.
Yes.
And so we have pictures of it, and so that's where the money goes. To your original question, I tend to digress, but education is the center of what we do here, because lighthouses are magnets. I've always said that. People are drawn. We've had people from 11 countries just this year, and we've only been open for 16 days.
Wow.
And there was a young family here last week when I was here, 5 from Alaska. They were going to Niagara Falls. And so they just stopped in to see the lighthouse. They didn't climb, but they just stopped in, and we spent time in this room.
That's great to get so many visitors. This really is, like you said, an attraction and a gem that we have here in Millcreek Township that's attracting people from all 50 states, all over the world. So Jackie, I'm on the edge of my seat right now. I want to get a tour of the rest of the lighthouse, and like you said, like everybody else, I just want to move into it. So I'm going to take some of these decorating ideas back to my own home. But if you don't mind, I'd like to start the tour.
Okay, fine.
Jackie and I have just entered the parlor room, or what visitors might know as the gift shop.
Right.
So, and we also came from the old dining room. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Now, this is called the parlor, okay? And this is the original floor, so this floor is 144 years old that you're standing on. Now, behind us, there would have been a door, right where these bookshelves are. There would have been a door, and that's where the people would have come in who came to visit. The keeper would have brought them into the parlor, talked to them about the lighthouse, what the lighthouse did, what he did, etc., and then took them back out and took them up in the tower. He did not take them into his private residence, so that door always stayed shut.
Okay.
But this was the parlor, and he was obligated to greet all visitors because it was a federally funded lighthouse.
Oh, okay. Well, now here, visitors should come and visit the gift shop. So a couple of things I want to point out, and we didn't get to touch on it earlier when we were talking about the license plates, but is this wonderful Lighthouse passport book. Jackie, why do people want to come grab this book and get a stamp?
Because they can take it to all the lighthouses that they visit. So they stop here, they get the 3 lights, they get it stamped. We have the lights in the gift shop, the stamps in the gift shop. They get it stamped, they move on to the next lighthouse. Lighthouses are really a wonderful trip to take, and we did have Oh, I guess it's all sold. We did have a book called Lighthouses of the Great Lakes. So it gave you a little description, and then you go to each one and get a stamp.
So if you want to take home a souvenir, you want to prove that you've been here,
Right.
get your lighthouse passport book and get it stamped, and then you can start your journey throughout the country with the other lighthouses.
Exactly.
And then what else are you holding in your hand here?
And this is a real special bowl. This is made out of cedar. And this tree originally stood right outside the back door. Okay, it was cut down, and in order to save the history, a local artist put this into this bowl. So again, this is a cedar bowl. And in this gift shop, we have many things. And I think you picked out this. This is made from driftwood. Now you can see the color of that. It's just, he just has machined it from a piece of driftwood.
And similar to that, we picked out a different one, and you noticed that this was made from cherry.
Cherry. He does tell you on the bottom.
These are absolutely beautiful.
Right.
And I want to pick out something that you said. You said they were all local artists.
Yes.
Is that right?
These are local artists, and these are from, the driftwood is from the peninsula, and this is from the lighthouse property, as well as this cherry tree here is the lighthouse property.
Okay, and I want to point out two more special things, and I will say everything in here is special. You're going to want to come take a trip in here. There's apparel, t-shirts, sweatshirts, but we're just pointing out some of the artwork to start. I have got my hands on these Lake Erie chocolate stones. They look just like pebbles and like beach glass, but it is chocolate, so it's edible. And the last thing, Jackie, why don't you tell me about this bowl?
This is made, this has beach glass in it. When she fires it, she puts the beach glass in there, and you can see that beautiful color. This is done by a local artist too. We have several pieces in the shop, and we invite people to come and look at them.
So folks, I would encourage you, again, if you're coming for somebody's birthday, if you're coming for an anniversary gift.
We have t-shirts. We have a whole line of t-shirts. Everything has a lighthouse on it.
Yes. They're great souvenirs to take home. I'm going to tell my home family to come here, right before Christmas and check out these gifts for me. So again, before we entered the gift shop, which was known as the parlor room, we came from the dining room. And why don't you tell us the history of the dining room, because that's really special too.
The dining room would have been like the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen in the winter, because they had a big coal stove on this east wall. And they had the stove in there, so they would cook there. And it was there to heat this room, the parlor, heat the small bedroom right next to the parlor, and heat the two bedrooms upstairs and the drying room, and a little bit of heat into the oil room. So the dining room that is called, it was really, like I said, the everything room, because they cooked in there, as opposed to cooking in a summer kitchen in the summer. So they were very smart.
They were smart, and like you said, they had the kitchen for the summertime cooking and dining, and then they had this one for the winter time.
The dining room, right.
Wonderful.
Right.
Okay, I am ready for the rest of the tour of this lighthouse.
Okay.
Well, we just received a tour of the outdoor grounds, the inside of the house. We went all the way up to the top of the tower. Jackie, I wanted to thank you so much, you and Joe and Michael, for taking the time out of your busy day. I can see here already that you have a ton of visitors, so I wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to do this show with us.
Well, we appreciate you coming, and the reason is we want viewers. We want Erie people to come and see us. I can tell you, in the 15 days that we've been open, there have been people here from 11 different countries and like 25 states. So people are coming from all over. We want the Erie viewers to come and see, and we would like to encourage them to volunteer. As Michael said, we have to have 10 volunteers a day, and that's a lot of people, and we're open from 10 until 5. The last tour of the tower is at 5:40 because it takes 20 minutes for the tour. So, 4:40.
4:40. Okay.
Because we close at 5.
Yes.
I'm hearing myself. So, and again, we want the local people to come and see us.
And how can people, again, if you're just interested in touring or if you want to become a volunteer, one more time, why don't we mention where viewers can find more information about the lighthouse?
Okay, they can go to our website, www.presquelighthouse.org, or they can call the phone, and it is on an answering machine, so they just know that leave a message, leave your phone number, and somebody will get back to you. And that number is 814-833-3604. And like I said, they can simply leave a message and somebody will get back. they can stop here at the lighthouse and they can pick up the information. They can pick up the information here about the license plate. They can pick up volunteer applications. They can just come and see what it's about. What we encourage volunteers to do is to shadow. We like them to come, visit all of the stations, and just get a feel for what's going on here and see where they'd like to participate. So we hope people will do that. And again, this is just the beginning of summer. It's going to be a long summer. We're open 7 days a week.
Well, Jackie, again, you have been a wealth of knowledge. Viewers, I really hope you've enjoyed the tour that Jackie gave us of the inside and again of the outside. Again, this was just wonderful, and we really want to direct people your way.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Viewers, there was a lot of Erie history that we touched on during our show today. As you can see, the Presque Lighthouse is truly a gem for both the local community and our out-of-town visitors. If you haven't done so already, be sure to check out their website and make plans to tour the lighthouse with your family this week. I also encourage you to show your support by becoming a member or volunteer, making a charitable contribution, or by purchasing an official Presque Lighthouse license plate. As always, thanks for tuning into the Millcreek Government Channel, and until next time, have a wonderful day.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.